All right, I'd like to welcome everybody here. It's just after 7 o'clock. We are going to get started here with our first CIM University. It's great to have so many of you guys joining us here tonight on Zoom here. We're also going to be streaming this guy live on YouTube as well. So it's just great to conduct this in a virtual fashion. Which in some ways is great because it brings so many people to the table that might not have the ability to come in person. So this is a fun way to do this, and we're excited to kind of kick off the 2020 CIM University series with everyone here tonight. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Scott Abbott. I'm the Executive Director of the Sacramento Running Association. I'm going to be the moderator tonight. As I said, I'm the executive director of the Sacramento Running Association. For those of you guys that don't know, the Sacramento Running Association, we're the organization that puts on the California International Marathon, which is why I know most of you guys are here tonight. We've put on that organization, or our organization has put on that race for 37 years here in Sacramento, and we're very proud of what it's become as one of the top marathons in the United States. We are happy that you're here joining us here on the road to CIM here in 2020. It's probably obvious for me to point out at this point that road to CIM right now is a little bit bumpy right now as we are under very uncertain times. We just are appreciative of the fact that you guys have embarked on that road to CIM. We are working tirelessly to try to figure out a way so that we can still have that event in December. But we also know that there is a lot of uncertainty, and it's a big uphill battle at this point. And tonight, I can't really provide any true clarity for anybody. Just know that we're still working on it. We're still working very hard, and it's our goal to explore every option to hopefully put that event on for everybody. And the next 3 or 4 weeks will be very, very telling for us, and hopefully be able to have more information for everybody very, very soon. We appreciate everybody here still continuing on that road to CIM and sharing our cautious optimism at this point. And just know that if the race doesn't happen, we still do have that worry-free registration that will allow you to come back and run CIM anytime you want in the next 3 years. But also, if CIM doesn't happen this fall, we still recognize that there's going to be opportunities for you guys to continue to prepare to possibly run a marathon, whether it's virtually or maybe a marathon that happens later this winter or into the spring, or maybe it's not till 2021. And so that's why this CIM University is very important. The title tonight is Best Practices for Marathon Training, and those are evergreen regardless of the conditions. We're going to try to help you prepare for hopefully CIM 2020, but if nothing else, we know that a marathon is in everybody's future sometime soon. And these CIM universities are a very, very valuable resource. We've been doing them for about 4 or 5 years in partnership with Fleet Feet Sports, Sacramento, and they're a valuable resource in helping people prepare for that task of marathon training. We have a great panel of experts here tonight that are going to help you prepare for a marathon, whether you're trying to run your first marathon or your fastest. We're going to talk through some best practices for marathon training. I want to go over a few just kind of logistical rules or just logistics of how this seminar is going to work tonight. And then we're going to dive right in. We're going to meet the panel, and we'll get humming here. First of all, everybody is on mute, and that's just with close to 60 people and potentially all the way up to 100 people. Obviously, that's the best way for us to hold this panel. So you're going to be on mute. If you have a question, there are 2 ways in which that question can be answered. There's a raise hand function on the participant tab in Zoom. If you open your participant tab at the bottom, there's a function that says raise hand. If you click on that, when is appropriate, we'll get to those questions, and I'll call on you and I will unmute you, and then you'll be able to ask your question of the panel. Another way is there's a chat associated with with the Zoom, and you can also type your question in there, and we'll try to get through those. And if we don't get through all those questions tonight, this is being live streamed on YouTube, and you can go to our YouTube channel, and we will answer those questions in the comments of that video on YouTube. Also, if you think of a question later that you didn't get answered, that's another place you can go and just put the question in the comments there, and we'll answer it there. So those are kind of the ground rules of how things are going to work tonight. In general, with questions, we're going to kind of take questions at the end. We're going to kind of get through some general, topics as it relates to marathon training. A lot of questions might get answered, but if there's something you need some clarification on, don't hesitate to raise your hand, and we'll try to get to you. Otherwise, we'll try to get to most of those questions at the end. Again, I appreciate everyone being here tonight. Under these circumstances, we're excited to embark on the road to CIM with you guys. Welcome to Crazy Town in training for a marathon, especially under the conditions that we have, and we appreciate you all being here. So with that, I'd like to introduce, we've got a great panel of marathon experts that are going to be able to speak to you, that come at this topic from a variety of different angles. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. Why don't I start here in my upper left-hand corner, which is with Danielle. Danielle, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Danielle Domenichelli. I'm SRA's Director of Education. I write CIM training plans, and I work with a number of runners here in Sacramento, and I'm also a runner myself. I ran at UCSB, any gauchos in the house, and trained professionally up in Flagstaff, and now here in Sacramento.
Thank you, Danielle. And Sean, how about you?
Hey guys, my name's Sean. I work here at Fleet Feet Sacramento, and we also have a store in Davis and a store in Elk Grove. And my job as the Director of Training Programs is to organize the official CIM training program, which started a couple weeks ago. We have 18 weeks of training, fully coached, in-person training to prepare you for, Sacramento's favorite marathon. We're following training plans that Danielle wrote, and we have an awesome team of coaches who will lead you through the program from start to finish, including speed workouts, long runs, and all kinds of stuff. And then Fleet Feet is also kind of your headquarters for anything running related, whether it's shoes or just, basic advice on training for a big race like the marathon.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Welcome. And Karen Henry.
Hi, I'm Karen. I have been coach with Fleet Feet almost 5 years, and I have coached CIM 4 times. I have a different perspective on running. I kind of came to it late in life after losing 180 pounds and found that it was just something I needed in my life. And I'm happy to help you all get across the finish line as well.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you to our entire panel for being here. And it really kind of encapsulates what we're going to talk about tonight, is really those best practices, whether you're running your first or your fastest. And this panel has expertise across the board in their own running, but then also in a lot of experience in preparing a lot of marathoners over the years to run great marathons. So we're just going to dive right in here. And the first thing I just kind of like talk you guys to talk about, and I'll start with you, Sean, is just speak about the importance of like the training plan and a training program, and how following a plan, what role that plays in preparing for a marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question that we get quite a bit from people. I think a lot of runners are used to going out and cranking out this sort of like weekend warrior 5K or 10K, but 26.2 miles is a long way to run. And there's a lot of sort of unknown after you cross a certain threshold of distance. Your body is prepared or capable of the marathon distance, but we want to make sure that it's prepared. So a lot of the basic principles of training really center on consistency, listening to your body, and sort of periodizing your training into blocks that allow your body to kind of adapt to the stress that you're putting on it, and grow stronger and prepare, for the next challenge that that you take on. And so when you have a structured training plan, you know that you're not doing too much too soon, and you also know that you're doing enough so that you're prepared on race day. You have weeks and weeks of hard work to rely on when you're starting on that standing on that starting line.
Thanks, Sean. And Danielle, maybe you could talk a little bit about that structured training plan and how it is designed. You're one of the people that designed the official training plan that we post as a written plan on our website, but then also that the official training program is following, about the theory of progression that is built into that training plan, and how following a plan can really be important to people having successful preparation.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the plan is the progression, like you said. You don't want to just jump up in mileage too quickly. So we really do ease you into more of a base phase in the beginning, just to build up some mileage. And overall, some key points to the training plan is a focus on, overall volume, increasing that over the program. Whether, that's increasing a once a week long run so that you can get used to those longer runs at longer time on your feet. And then also some speed work so you can get used to running at faster paces, which will help, make your race pace feel a bit easier. And then also just getting used to pace. So a lot of workouts that do focus on dialing in pacing, and just making sure you're ready for the marathon.
Thanks. And so I agree with you guys, that accountability of a plan that really just gives you that structure, kind of breaks the monster of preparing for a marathon up into parts. And Karen, maybe you can kind of touch on that a little bit for people that maybe look overwhelmed a bit by the plan, and just what's the best way to kind of approach that when they look at the plan, and it's a lot, obviously, to get ready for an event like a marathon, maybe from a first timer's perspective.
I say don't look ahead of the weeks, because if you get your plan and you open it up and you go, gosh, I'm so excited, and you go, oh my God, I have to do 20 miles. Don't worry about that this week. Don't worry about that until early November. We're going to get you there slowly. So basically the key is doing the homework every day, getting your runs in and building up slowly. So it's easy to get overwhelmed. Just don't do that.
Yeah, and maybe we could touch on that a little bit more, all of you guys, and maybe even Karen, just diving right back to you on that is, you touched on the person that maybe, whether you look ahead or not, what's out there, that run, that 20 miler, the 18 miler, and if nothing else, at the end of the road, 26 miles. What about that person right now who, hey, I'm having trouble running 5 or 6 miles, and how am I going to, in, even 6 weeks, 7 weeks, be able to run 20 miles? How does that work?
It's a longer progression than 6 or 7 weeks. If you can start off with 5 or 6 miles, we can slowly get you to 26.2, no problem. It's just doing the work and putting in the effort.
Okay. Yeah. And Sean, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, it is a long way to run, but I think, each successive, long run, or, for some, it might even be the longest you've ever run. It seems scary now, right? Because you've never run that far, and there's so much between now and that super long run. But as we move through a training plan, you're getting closer incrementally. So incrementally you're kind of breaking down the mystique of those super long runs. And I think as you progress through the plan, you start to realize okay, my body is adapting to this. I would have never dreamed of casually running 13 miles a few weeks ago, but here I am doing it 2 weekends in a row, and next week I'm increasing a little bit, but it's only a couple more miles, and I've already increased a bunch. So it's normal for it to seem really scary right now, I think, but just remember that you're going to have a lot of preparation under your belt when you get to those longer miles, and that's what you can kind of count on to get you through. So it should feel scary right now, but it'll feel progressively less scary as you move on through the program.
Yeah, you touched on a word there that's really important. I think you said the word adapt, and that's maybe the most important word when it comes to running training, endurance training in general, adaptation. It's actually the greatest performance enhancing drug that's out there, except it's natural and our bodies produce it naturally, which is we adapt to training. And it's amazing to think that when you first start out, some of the hardest miles are those first miles, 2 to 3 mile runs, 4 mile runs, 5 mile runs. And you're going to be amazed that as your body adapts and learns how to do that, pretty soon, when you run your 16 miler or 18 miler, and then you have a down week and you only have to run 12 or 14, you're going to be amazed. You're like, oh, that's nothing. It's like water's off a duck's back. And I think that it's really important as you're going through some of those tough early days for some of you guys that are just starting out to recognize that your body will adapt. And this program, training programs, good systematic training programs apply a system of progression that allows your body to adapt and get to that next level before you kind of move on. So I appreciate you kind of touching on that point, and that theory of adaptation is a big part of this. And we've kind of talked a little about long runs, and I kind of want to stay there for now. Then Danielle, when we talk about progression of long runs, maybe you can talk a little bit about what the goal there is in long runs on the weekends, of what role that long run plays in your preparation to run 26 miles.
Yeah, I mean, the long run, the main goal is to get used to time on your feet, to build that up. And we do it once a week because you want to have time in between those longer runs to recover. So typically, yeah, once a week, you progress your long run. We start, training plans much lower and eventually try to get up, or we work up to get up to 20 miles for at least the training program that I write, which is usually about 4 weeks out. And during these long runs, like, it should be running easy pace. It should not be race pace. It's like I said, it's about time on your feet, getting used to fueling, getting used to just being out there mentally as well. So yeah, don't go too fast on long runs, and slowly build up. Yeah, we have just one 20-mile run on ours because those longer runs, your body's going to need a lot of time to recover. And so in training, you don't want to be going to the well and having to take a week off. And so 20 miles really does get your body ready for that. You should be out there about as long as you would be doing a race, a marathon race. And some people might think I need to do a marathon before I race a marathon, but it's proven that you actually don't need to do the 26 miles. You'll still get the same benefit from a little bit shorter and save your body, so you can keep training.
Thanks. Yeah, maybe you can follow up on that a little bit, Sean, in terms of, I know that there's probably some anxiety out there when people say, okay, I get this progression, I get from 12, I get to 14, I get to 16, I get to 18, but then if I want to run 26 and I only train for 20 miler, especially for that beginning marathoner or that person who might even be just trying to get a little bit better, how do you respond to somebody who is concerned that, only that 20 miles either is not enough or only one 20 miler may not be enough? What's the theory behind that?
Yeah, that's a very common thing that we hear. Sort of intuitively, you would think, like, if you're going to do something, you want to do it multiple times and practice doing it, right? But running doesn't really work that way. So, what we're kind of thinking of with the long runs, right? Your body doesn't know mileage, right? It has no way to tell how far you're going, but it does know time, and it does know, like, level of stress, right? So what we're doing is all throughout the week, every single week, we're putting your body through, very targeted stress. So whether that's speed or just this, like, everyday homework runs, or your long run on the weekend, and your body's kind of taking that and not just, like, recovering from it, but building back stronger, right? So there's been a lot of research that shows that, like, getting up into that 18 to 20 mile range while running it as an easy pace, you're out there for a long enough time, like what Danielle said, like pretty much equivalent to the time that you would be out there running a marathon. And that stress is allowing your body to heal back stronger, so that the next time you put it through that, duration of a hard effort, you're going to be that much stronger and ready to take it on and really put in that hard effort on race day.
That's great. And Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
The long runs are where it's at as far as, getting the time on your feet. It's the speed workouts and the targeted runs that are really going to see where you see the improvement. There's going to come a time where you are doing a long run, find you're having a really hard time maintaining your easy long pace because you've improved. So that's why it's a great reason to kind of reassess yourself periodically throughout the program and kind of see what your new easy long pace should be. Since you will be.
Yeah, I think that's a great kind of segue into kind of the speed workouts, but I did want to kind of touch a little bit more on that 20 miler, and it's something I always kind of say a little too, is one of the reasons we're all here, giving up time on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night or Tuesday night on a Zoom call and taking notes, and why we've invested in this experience is running a marathon is a big thing, and it's why we put the sticker on our car and all those things. There is some magic to running 26 miles, and it's not something you just accomplish in a training run in preparation for the event. That part of that final 6 miles of the race is really where the magic and the kind of the uncertainty and the fun of the marathon exists. And really, your job in training is to prepare your body to be as efficient as it can and as prepared as it can to get through those 20 miles. And then once you're through 20 miles and you've really calloused and developed your body for that, then that's where the race begins. It becomes a 6 mile race. If you haven't prepared for that and you start to have struggles much earlier, 12, 13 miles in, well, then that's when it becomes a marathon, becomes very strong, very difficult. So really your goal through training is to, really develop an efficiency through 20 miles so that then you can really embark on that challenge of the final 6 miles and really embrace that, and not stress about the uncertainty of that. That's where the fun comes. And that's why we throw the sticker on our car and do all these crazy things that we've been doing and get up at 5 a.m. and all those other stuff. So really kind of embrace that challenge of the final 6 miles rather than, fret over not being able to have that assurance when you're standing on the starting line that you're ready for it. So that's great. I appreciate everyone's answers there as it relates to the long run, and we'll get some questions from the audience a little bit later on that. Let's dive into, as Karen segued us into speed workouts. Danielle, maybe again, like the long run, talk about the importance of speed workouts, what role they play in the training program and in the training plan.
Yeah, so speed workouts will be things run faster than your race pace. So it's to get you used to, get your body used to running faster than race pace, so that your race pace will end up feeling a little bit easier, and you'll also be more efficient in your running, the way your body takes in oxygen, uses fuel, and just also general form improvements. So our program has kind of focus on tempo runs, but also some interval runs. And starting, maybe you're only doing like a 10 or 15 minute tempo, but increasing that over the training plan so you can get used to running faster than race pace for a longer time. Just kind of get yourself fitter and make race pace feel easier.
And Karen, maybe someone who's saying, I don't really care about how fast I run. I just want to finish a marathon. Why do I need to do speed work?
Speed work is really, it's a different way of using your muscles, and it's going to improve your overall running in general. So it's where everything gets stronger.
And Sean, you touched on, pace, or actually I think Karen, you did on helping adjusting paces. What role does kind of speed work play in kind of that pace finding as it relates to a marathon?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, Karen, to cut you off there. I think marathon pace is faster than your easy pace, so it is going to feel challenging. But on your speed workout days, that's another important component of a week of marathon training, you're running faster than your marathon pace. And really the idea, there's a lot of physiological reasons why we do that. But a big one is just to get more comfortable running fast so that actually your marathon pace actually doesn't feel that fast to you anymore. Like there's sort of those mental things that we do to build resilience and to trick your body into thinking it's doing less work than it actually is. So by running, consistently running, faster than what's comfortable for you, you can kind of move that threshold of, where your like comfortable cruising pace is. And so, eventually you'll be able to run at 26.2 miles at, a pace that you wouldn't have dreamed of, at the beginning of training, simply because, your body has now learned, like, okay, I can move faster, more efficiently, because, you're putting under those really targeted small hits of stress throughout the program.
And Danielle, we kind of use speed.
Also,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Karen. Yep. You, Karen.
It's also very fun to.
They are fun. And
Yes.
Yeah. And so we use speed as this kind of catch-all for anything that's not an easy run. Maybe you can briefly talk about the different types of speed workouts and what each one, just for people that you throw out words like tempo and fartlek and hills, like what are each of those, just so people have an understanding. There might be people that, haven't looked at a training plan yet. And so talk about what those different types of speed workouts are.
Yeah, so there's threshold workouts, which are more sustained effort, not as hard as race pace or kind of just getting the volume up, getting your body working hard. Then there's also intervals, which are shorter in distance, more repetitions, and kind of they work more your VO2 max. They get your leg turnover going. And then we also have hills, which I think are really important in building strength, and also just recruiting those little muscles that you might not be working on just a shuffling along easy pace. And then also just getting your heart rate up, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think there's some value to varying the pace of your running. And there's a lot of value in I think our third CIM University, we're going to talk about injury prevention, but varying pace of running can really help with that a lot, because you're recruiting, as Karen said, different muscle fibers, but also different stride lengths can kind of help recruit different muscles and help protect from injury. There's a question real quick, just because it's dealing with this topic, Danielle, just explaining the difference between the term threshold and tempo. I know those are used interchangeably a lot, and maybe at this level they kind of are interchangeable, but I don't know if you want to touch on that at all.
Yeah, threshold's more of a tempo is a type of threshold workout, and so like threshold could be also like longer intervals. A lot of times, we'll do like 2 by 10 minutes. So tempo is a threshold.
Yeah, and you're really working in that it's a pace that you can run for about an hour, and so it's closer to that half marathon pace. So if you guys start to run other races, and we talk about that, really when you're doing threshold training, tempo training, it's going to be in that pace that you can hold for about an hour. That should be a half marathon, and then in training, it's one that you're going to do in bouts of somewhere between 10 and 30 minutes, and it's faster than marathon pace, as Danielle said, but not all out effort that you can only hold for 4 or 5 minutes. So thank you guys for that, and I know there'll be a lot more questions about that, but in touching on pace, let's talk about the importance of pace. I think that there's this general idea that for some people that, hey, I'm just going to go out and just try to run and cover 26 miles. But even for the advanced people that are trying to run as fast as they can or trying to improve their mark, really, it's something I always stress, that you can train and be as fit as you want when you approach a marathon. But really, the two things that can derail a marathon performance, whether it's your first or you're trying to run your fastest, is pace and fueling, which we'll talk about at the next CIM University. But let's talk a little bit about pace right now, and how you can start to dial that in your training and how that can kind of be a benchmark for you in your preparation. Sean.
Sure. Yeah. So pacing is important both for goal setting. So, whether you have like a specific time goal or you just want to make sure you finish that marathon, it's important to understand pace because you're going to need to take that into account to some degree, whether you're pushing yourself at the end of the race or just trying to make sure that you get it done within the time limit. So it's important to understand how fast you're going. And it's also important to understand like when is the time to run at different paces. So Danielle and Karen talked said some really awesome stuff about easy pace on your long runs and those easy runs throughout the week. And then we also talked about threshold pace or threshold effort that you're going to be doing sparingly but definitely consistently. And so a really, really good way to find out, what all those paces are for you and to kind of reevaluate that throughout your training is to run a time trial. That's something that we always incorporate in our marathon training programs here at Fleet Feet. We have people go out there and just run 5K or 3 miles as hard as they can. And we take that time and we plug it into a pace calculator. You can find a running pace calculator just by Googling. And you plug that 5K time in there, and it's going to tell you a lot of different paces for different types of workouts. So, tempo or intervals. It'll also give you some, race predictor times. Like, here's your pace for like a half marathon or a marathon. So all those are useful in kind of evaluating, how fast you should be running. But it's also important to think about how slow you should be running. A lot of marathon running is aerobic running, right? We want you to be able to breathe. We want you to be below your maximum heart rate. And in order to do that, we need you to run most of your miles in that aerobic zone. And so that's why we want you, running those easy pace runs consistently. Your body physiologically is not going to adapt to be able to move faster in the aerobic zone if you're constantly pushing it outside of that zone beyond that threshold by running too fast too often. So run slow to run fast. That's what we always say to our training groups.
Yeah, and we've been referencing, our training plan here, and I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. And just so everyone knows, it's great. Many people on this call might be in one of our training programs, one of the official training programs, but it's also on our website under the training and education section. We have these marathon plans. We've really structured the marathon training around 3 different general groupings. We call it our finish program, our improve program, and our perform program. Finish, obviously, for beginning marathoners, where the focus is just finishing a marathon. Improve, maybe you've run a marathon before or a half marathon and you're looking to improve your mark or improve your time. And then obviously the perform program being, really focused around possibly qualifying for the Boston Marathon, or really you're an advanced marathoner that's trying to get faster. And those programs are all on our website. So as you can go to our website, download those programs, and if there's any questions you guys have on those, you can hopefully ask them here on this call tonight. So speaking of that plan, we talk about long runs, we talk about speed workouts. Those are kind of the more technical, specific elements of that training plan. What about filling in the gaps there? How important are the rest of the runs between those? I think that gets a lot of people's focus, is that when they look at a week, they instantly look at how far is my long run and what's my speed workout. But how important are those other runs? How often should they be running? How many miles should they be running? And what pace should those be at? Talk a little bit about those filler runs, or I think, Sean, you call them homework runs. And let me start with you, Karen, maybe for that beginning marathoner that maybe is just looking at the weekend long run progression. How important are those other runs, and how many should they be getting in?
They're very important, just to build up your endurance with your body. And they're not, for the most part, they're going to be at your easy pace. And there's going to be times where it doesn't feel easy, but it's going to be the aerobic workout. But you really are going to have a hard time being successful completing just 2 runs a week. So, 4 to 5 runs, cross training minimum. Rest days are important, but you got to do the other homework runs as well.
Yeah, Danielle, thoughts about that is, when you start talking about building these plans for people, what is the thought about those kind of other day runs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's committing to the process of doing something. Generally, we say like 6 days a week, and at least 4 days of running. If you're a beginner and just building up mileage, 2 of those days can be cross training. And I think it's just committing to do something, whether it's, just a few miles. If you just get out the door 6 days a week, I think it'll come to you. But obviously, like, also taking it day by day. If you need a single day off, obviously take that day off. But just committing to the process of trying to be active, sticking to a routine, 6 days a week. Obviously, if you need to do 5, that's fine too. But
Sean, thoughts?
Yeah,
Especially like
I
she
think,
talks about 6 days a week. We know we have like a lot of working professionals out there, people that are busy, or maybe they just are coming off the couch and running 6 days a week. It might not be a reality for them, but what are the kind of key pieces that they need in getting ready for a marathon?
yeah, absolutely. So, we always have like our ideal, and then, we can kind of like find workarounds. Everyone's busy. We understand that. But it doesn't mean that you can't run a marathon. So, Danielle mentioned cross training. That's something that a lot of us are doing, in our normal lives without even realizing. We're really thinking about like sort of more aerobic activities that aren't high impact, like running. So, for some folks, that might be like bike riding. I've heard, a lot of people are into swimming or kayaking or, different things like that, things that you may already be doing maybe with your family. All of those things can help you, work towards that marathon goal. But consistency with running is important. So we always want to prioritize the speed workout and a long run, and then a couple other runs here and there. And the great thing about, having a training program or following a training plan is, it kind of takes the thinking out of it. Like, what you're going to have to do ahead of time. You can kind of build your schedule around that, or plug it in, where it makes sense on a weekly basis. And I think it's important to talk about like, time commitment here. Like those like homework runs or even the speed workouts, we're not talking a lot of time here. We're talking like an hour commitment, maybe a few days a week. The long runs are really where you're putting in a lot of the time. So, if you can break it down and just say, okay, like, for example, our training group, on Wednesday and Thursday this week, they're running about 40 minutes. Like that's their assignment, is just go out, run easy for 40 minutes. And that's doable for most people. You might have to move around your schedule a little bit, but don't think of it as this hours long commitment. Like 40 minutes, like you can spend that time, prioritize your goals. And I think for most people, you can kind of fit those things in here and there. Obviously giving priority to the speed workout and the long run.
Yeah, I think that you touched on a key piece there and it was something we touched on earlier, that concept of consistency, and I even think of frequency too. Mm-hmm. I think, obviously that plan puts in place how much, people should be running, but at the same time, I think really getting out the door consistently in some consistent way, in a frequent way, and definitely more often than not. So that would be at a minimum 4 days a week is really, really important. When you start chopping up, getting prepared for a marathon. And I don't know if this has been touched on yet, but no one single run or workout is actually all that important in preparing for a marathon. It's the totality of work over 18, 16, 14, 12 weeks, whatever it is that you're doing that prepares you for a marathon. And really all those little runs here and there are really, really valuable. In fact, so much so that I would say, if somebody told me they were running consistently for 10 or even 12 weeks, but only got their long run up to 12 miles or 14 miles, or even, I would say I would feel good about them running a marathon before the person that told me they went out and just muscled up and ran an 18 or 20 miler, but was only running 1 or 2 days a week. I really feel like that totality of work is more important, and the consistency is more important. And so that should be, kept into account, I think, a little bit, maybe. And you could talk about this, Danielle. What happens if that person, if, they're following the plan and they're trying to stay consistent, but an ache or a pain comes up or life gets in the way and they miss this run or miss that run or this workout? Are you like trying to double up to catch up? Are you just kind of punting and moving on and just trying to stay consistent from there? Like how does that work in terms of pivoting off of the plan as you move forward, Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned this, that yeah, no single day or even week is gonna make or break your race either way. No one single great workout's gonna make it that your race goes well. I think the biggest thing is to show up race day feeling healthy and feeling like you do have a good chunk of training behind you. And so it is listening to your body a little bit. If you need to take that day off or that week off, if you look at overall over the course of 3 or 4 months, you're still going to have a great volume of training behind you and preparing you for the marathon. So you definitely don't need to like make up any missed time. If you have an injury, take care of the injury, get healthy, and you'll have the training you've done before the injury and some after. And yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the analogies we put together before for getting ready for a marathon is like putting together a 1,000-piece puzzle of like the Golden Gate Bridge or something. And, it's really about just placing all those pieces, and every run and workout you do is a piece of that puzzle. And really the goal is to put together enough of the puzzle that you can tell that it's the Golden Gate Bridge. If you haven't put enough of those pieces in place, and you step back and you're like, I don't know what this looks like, you're probably not marathon ready. But if you can step back and see that it's the Golden Gate Bridge, you're ready. Whether you have the 20-miler or this workout or that workout, yeah, that 20-miler might be an important piece. It might be a corner piece, but you're also okay if it's not there, if you have enough other pieces in place. And so I think that's a good analogy when you're looking at the totality of the work. And really the key is to lay as many of those pieces down as you can between now and race day. Karen, I'd actually like you to touch on something before we open up questions. There might be some people out there that we talk about running and pacing, and I kind of skipped over this, I think, when we were talking about it before. But if, a lot of people, walking is a big part of their, if they're a beginner or a slower runner, that to get through 26 miles, there's going to be some walking built in, and the importance of having a plan and building that into their pace schedule rather than just kind of run till I'm tired, then walk. Eventually that's going to turn into more walking than running. And so explain how kind of the run walk plan maybe can work for somebody to get to the finish line of a marathon.
Absolutely. It's a factor, the Galloway method of its intervals, running, walking, and you can start off with something as simple as a minute run, a minute walk, 2-minute run, 1-minute walk, whatever works for you. And the key with that is basically the walk intervals are going to kind of allow you to recover a little bit before you start running again. Whereas if you just run until you're tired and then walk, you end up getting gassed. There's nothing left in your tank to put out. And you end up just kind of doing the walk of the drunken mummy across the finish line, and it's not a fun experience. So the key with the run walk intervals is that it will get you there relatively even split if that's how you train.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I think now we got about 15 minutes left, and I'd like to open it up to the group for questions. Remember, you can use that raise hand function. Again, that's in the participant. If you hit on the participant tab at the bottom there, you'll see a list of participants, and then you can hit raise hand. And as I see your hand come up, I will unmute you and you can ask your question. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can type it into the group chat and we'll try to get to it here. Okay, Josh, I'm coming for you. Go ahead, Josh.
If I'm able to run, if I'm able to run 6 weeks a day pretty easily, how important is cross training?
I'll jump in and answer that, Josh. Yeah, I mean, I think cross training is important, but if you are, able to healthily and capably complete 6 days of running, let's keep it there. Let's do those 6 days of running. But we always encourage you to listen to your body, and as we get deeper into the program or you get closer to that race and you're doing longer miles, there may be weeks where you just feel really fatigued after, some big speed workouts or some of those long runs. And in those cases, it's okay to substitute a cross training day like cycling or swimming or something like that for a run day if you just need a little bit of extra recovery. So, let your body kind of be the guide there and pay attention to the signals of fatigue and use the cross training as a recovery tool to prepare you for that next week of training.
Great. Andrew, let me unmute you here. Andrew, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So I'm trying to get an idea of kind of the different paces. So like between an easy pace, the race pace, and a fast pace type of workout. And so let's just say like my desired race pace is like 9 minutes, 30 seconds a mile. What would be a sample of an easy pace? And what would be a sample of like a speed pace?
Danielle, you want to hop on that, or?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's a great question.
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest, the perfect thing. Like we mentioned, there's pace calculators that you can plug in. Like you can plug in your times. You can plug in your goal marathon time, and it will tell you the training paces. But if your race pace is 9:30 per mile, yeah,
hold on a second, Andrew. Did you say your easy run pace or your marathon pace is 9:30 per mile?
My desired marathon pace is 9:30.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like 10:30. I don't know exactly. I'm not quite good with that.
Yeah, I would say, and you're absolutely right. Somewhere between 30 seconds to a minute per mile slower on your easy days.
Okay.
I think the slower your goal marathon pace is, the closer that easy run is going to be to your goal marathon pace. But I think 30 seconds is a good, reasonable goal but it's okay to be as much as a minute slower than marathon pace. And if you kind of get warmed up and it slides closer to 15 seconds to close to marathon pace, that's okay, but you don't want to be pounding a bunch of your easy running at marathon pace. But then maybe talk about some of those speed paces underneath 9:30.
Really.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Andrew, your best bet is to go out and do a time trial, like a race simulation, like 5K time trial, and plug that into a pace calculator. It sounds like you've been doing some good running, and I promise you that's going to be your best bet. So maybe for a speed workout this week or next week, go out there, get that time trial done, and everyone's the spectrum of everyone's pace is going to be different, right? Their fitness is in a little different spot. So it's there's not one perfect solution, but the great thing is that you can find like a custom personalized solution just by getting that time trial data and plugging it into a pace calculator.
Okay, thank you.
And there's
go ahead, Karen.
A really great pace calculator is runsmartproject.com. You can look up Jack B. It's not the Jack you're thinking of. It's a running Jack. But if you click in your desired times, or you can do your 5K time and then click the training tab, it's going to lay it all for you.
Okay.
But having that 9:30 is a good baseline for you, and then it's going to be 30 seconds roughly slower, and then when you're doing faster stuff, it's going to be kind of 30 seconds to a minute faster depending on the length of that workout. So somewhere between 8:30 to 9 minutes for your faster stuff. But yeah, that pace calculator can dial in each different type of work for you. That's a great question, Andrew.
Thank you.
I'm going to Carolyn here, and then we'll dive into some of the ones there in the chat.
Hi, I was just wondering if you can give some suggestions, since the course is kind of like rolling hills. What type of workout should I be doing to prepare my legs for that? This will be my second time running CIM. And even though I did hill training, it felt like I probably needed to be a little bit more prepared. So going into it the second year, I'd love to get your feedback on what kind of training runs I should be doing to best prepare my legs for the course.
Yeah. If you're doing general marathon training workouts, also incorporating hillier runs, and you can even do, I know a lot of people, their quads get beat up from all the downhill, so you can do some downhill running, whether that's in a workout or just making sure you are hitting more hills on your long runs, even on just regular runs. I think helps with that for our course in particular.
And hill repeats are amazing. Just you go up, you go down. And with our training programs, we end up with 4 or 5 different hill workouts throughout the course of the program. And that's, it doesn't kill you. It does make you stronger.
Yeah, and Carolyn, you bring up a great point. I think a lot of people maybe that are running CIM, and especially the ones that aren't local, and are attracted to the race because it has a reputation for being a fast course, and it is a fast course. There's even a net downhill. They underestimate that there are rolling hills in the race, especially in the first half, and you do want to prepare for those. And so building hill training in, and I think that if nothing else in the training, but also into your expectations for the race itself, is really, really important. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback we get from people. They go, oh, I just didn't realize there were so many hills in that first half because it's such a fast course, and it is. And really what makes it a fast course is if your ability to kind of manage those hills early on, you can kind of really rip the second half. And so your hill training can be a big part of that. And I would suggest, I think Karen, the hill repeats is really, really good. But another thing is you kind of design some of those longer runs, maybe try to find a route that mimics a little bit of the CIM course, has some rolling hills in the first half of your run, and you can kind of manage your effort as you kind of roll through some up and downs, and then really kind of be able to dial in that pace in the second half of that long run and really kind of prepare for the demands of the course more than just the demands of hills itself, really kind of make those specific to the course. So I think that can be really smart as you prepare some of your long run routes, rather than just kind of going out and always doing the same long run. So let me hit some of these ones in the chat. Somebody asked about gels and beef jerky and some different things with regards to fueling. And I will use this as a plug for our next CIM University in September, is going to be just about fueling and hydration. And so I encourage you to come to that. I will say that it is important you guys start incorporating those into your long runs now, just in terms of starting to practice fueling. It's an important part of your race preparation. And maybe as you guys start to practice that now and you learn what some of those pitfalls are, you'll bring those questions to us in September. But I don't want to waste too much time now on a topic that we're going to dive a lot into in September. We've got a question about kind of strength training, yoga, stretching, some of these auxiliary pieces of, I know you guys touched on cross training a little bit, but maybe talk real quick about how can those auxiliary pieces play a role in the training, yoga, stretching, strength training?
Okay, I'll jump in. Yeah, so yoga is phenomenal, and I would say that's like stretching, like the next level of stretching, right? Like, and really what you're doing there is you're allowing your muscles to build range of motion, and you're helping them heal healthily. So, you know, you're kind of promoting their progress along the way. So stretching, you know, that's something that you should be doing after every single run that you do, right? And I know it's easier said than done, and it's easier to just, you know, after a hard run, you just want to get in your car and go home and you know, get something to eat. But if you can build like a 5-10 minute stretch routine into every single run that you do, you will notice that you know, you're recovering faster, that your range of motion has increased quite a bit, you know, and all of those things kind of work towards that eventual goal. And you know, yoga obviously takes a little bit more time, but if you can build that in a couple weeks also, like, that's phenomenal.
What about like the strength training piece, Danielle? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that is good to add on if you can. Obviously, running is the most important thing to get in. So if you have to choose between lifting weights or running, I definitely do the running first. And then a lot of strength training probably for marathon isn't about bulking up necessarily in muscles, like really bulking up your muscles, but kind of strengthening some of your smaller muscles, some of the stabilizers, core stuff. Just, you know, lunges, even just basic lunges and squats without weights are helpful. But yeah, I mean, if you have the time and energy to do a little bit more strength stuff, that can help with injury prevention, help make you stronger, help you feel better at the end of the race too. Yeah,
and that actually plugs our third CIM University, where we're talking about injury prevention, and we're going to talked to some great resources at Results Physical Therapy, and they're going to give some exercises and things people can do. And I know that's not till October, but I do think that's an important part of it. But I also want to caution everyone, especially people that are new to this, that there's only so many stimuli that you can, introduce at one time. And sometimes we get really excited and we want to start doing everything. And I'm running a bunch, and especially if you're running a lot more than you're used to, if you're also piling on a bunch of new strength training and also yoga and stretching and everything, all that stuff is important, but you have to be careful how you introduce things. And you really have to, make sure that you're only introducing kind of one stimulus at a time, and rather than just piling a bunch of things on. And ultimately, the stimulus that's most important, as Danielle said, is running. That's the most specific. And some of those other things, if you've been doing them a lot, it might be pulling them down to, really elevate your running and then slowly add those back up. We are, maybe have time for one more question here. Somebody is asking about, we touched on it a little earlier, but someone talking about the 3-day-a-week plan. I think we sort of answered that earlier, that, people can get there on 3 days a week. But, we really encourage people. I think I said before, it's better to run more often than not. So if you can make it to that 4th day, even if it's just getting out and running 20 or 30 minutes, that frequency of running can go a long way. A 3-day-a-week plan can work, but you definitely are putting a lot of risk on potential injury, especially as those long runs get longer. Those in-between runs really kind of pad the walls a little for those longer runs and the speed workouts. So we are, right up against 8 o'clock here. I want to get some final, maybe thoughts from each of the panel before we sign off and see everybody at our next panel in September. But also, this will be on YouTube, on the SRA YouTube page. And if you have any other questions, you can put it in the comments there, and we'll answer them in line in the comments. But I want to just get one more final sign off from everybody here, just kind of a key thought that they had that want to encapsulate everything. But thank you for being with us. Danielle, a final thought from you?
Yeah, I mean, just commit to the process, commit to being consistent with your training as best you can. We didn't really go over it, but also recovery. So listen to your body, get good sleep, and just have fun out there. Thanks.
Sean?
Sure, yeah. I think the number one thing that you can do is, reach out to those resources that are, right at your fingertips, and don't feel like you have to figure this all out by yourself. If this is your first CIM, I definitely recommend checking out the Cim First Timer program. There's information on the CIM website, and there's tons of resources there for first-time marathoners. If you're looking for a structured program with coaching and, someone to check in with you, multiple times per week, and a group to run with in person in Sacramento, Davis, or Elk Grove, I definitely recommend checking out the official CIM training program hosted by Fleet Feet. You can find that at fleetfeetsacramento.com. And I recommend, no matter where you are, stopping into your local run specialty store. There's marathoners there. They'll put shoes on your feet, and while they're doing it, they will talk to you about, how to get a marathon done. So really engage with that running community. I think the camaraderie of our running community is one of the most powerful things that can kind of help you towards that goal.
Definitely. That's huge. And Karen, maybe a shot of encouragement. There might be some people out there that are really looking at the mountain right now and wondering if they can get this done. And I think, Karen, you're a great person to speak to that.
Just walk one step at a time, run the mile you're in. I think the most important thing for me also is to remember why I decided I wanted to do this. What is my goal? Why am I doing this? And if you remember what your why is, it's going to make it a lot easier to pull yourself out of the bed at 5 a.m. on those cold, dark mornings. I know we haven't had cold, dark mornings.
Can't wait for those.
They will come. But you can do that. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Karen. And I just want to sign off one more with thank you guys for joining us here tonight and for embarking on the road to CIM and start with what we started with. I know it's a rocky road right now with a lot of uncertainty. We're working very, very hard to hopefully have this event for everybody in December. But we want to engage you guys and keep you going along the way. And I promise you that we will have options for you one way or the other for you to be able to run a marathon this fall if you need to. But our hope is that we have you on the starting line in Folsom in December. So I appreciate everyone's cautious optimism, and we look forward to staying on the road to CIM with you over the next few weeks until our next CIM University. Thank you guys, and good luck to everybody.